Hey guys, it's the Bearded Wonder. We're back for another fun and exciting installment of the Cold War. And today we're going to talk about alliances. So, if you kind of remember, last time we talked about the Marshall Plan, basically making it rain cash in Western Europe, and also the fact that the Soviets were kind of uh, compelling all of these nations in Eastern Europe to sort of be behind what Winston Churchill referred to as the Iron Curtain, which meant that they really didn't have a lot of options, that the Soviets were kind of telling them what to do. And so there is an effort on the part of the countries that are all for freedom, mainly Western Europe, America, and Canada, to sort of create a mutual defense alliance. If you remember back to World War I, these are basically agreements that countries have that if we get attacked, that we're all going to work together. Sort of a strength in numbers, sort of an idea. And so we have America and Canada kind of added to these Western European countries, all expressing an interest in creating a mutual defense alliance to stop the Soviets from spreading. It's basically this idea referred to as containment. If you think about uh, football, a running quarterback, a lot of times the defense talks about containment, meaning to keep the quarterback in the pocket. You want to stop him from running around, and that's kind of the American goal in the world as well. We want to stop communism from running around. And as you can see from this map, by 1950, communism's been pretty successful in spreading to some places in the world. And so America especially, but also their allies, are looking to stop that. And so they're going to create an alliance, and an alliance basically in this area of the circle here. And so what are we going to call our little club? Well, we're going to call it the North, because if you look at this map, it's on the north part of the globe. We're going to call it the Atlantic because it's not just north, it is also around that Atlantic Ocean there. Treaty, because we're making a deal with each other. Organization, because we're starting a new club. And so we're basically going to call ourselves NATO. And this club is going to be mainly the Americans agreeing to help defend, although the other countries are as well, different member nations. So Western Germany, for example, you can see here also in Turkey, the Americans are going to put nuclear missiles in their new allies' countries. This is for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's really neat if you can have a nuclear missile that's close to the Soviet Union, kind of threatening. But it also makes it a lot less likely that the Soviet Union is going to be able to break its containment, that it's going to be able to spread any further than it already has. And so Western Europe, neener, we have our super club and you can't do anything about it. Well, the Soviets are going to want to create their own club. They don't want to be left out. And so they're going to kind of create this situation where, again, they're going to use this threat of force to kind of force all of the Eastern European countries to join what they call the Warsaw Pact, which is the same thing. If somebody gets attacked, it's basically an attack against all of them. This also allows the Soviet Union, if you look at all these flags here, all these countries that are kind of thinking right now that they really wish that they were in NATO, but they can't be. If one of them decided to, the Soviet Union is going to kind of be able to put pressure on them from other countries to kind of bring them back in line. And so it's going to kind of put even more pressure on the Eastern Bloc to remain true to the Soviet Union. So we end up with this kind of alliance picture in Europe. And this is another reason why we call it a Cold War. Nobody's really fought. Nobody's launched a missile at anybody. It's all threats and everything else like that. And so it's not a hot war where we're shooting each other, but at the same point, it's definitely this competition, and we're way past the point of being friendly towards each other. And so we call it a Cold War. And you can see here NATO and the Warsaw Pact kind of dividing Europe in half. Spoiler alert, we're going to talk a little bit here about the end of the Cold War, so if you're not interested in that, maybe turn off the video. No, not really, but NATO wins. The Soviet Union collapses, it falls apart at the end of the Cold War, turns back into Russia, which is why we have our Russian flag here instead of a communist flag. And all of these former Soviet satellite states join NATO, mainly so that so that Russia doesn't force them to become part of a Soviet Union Part 2. And so that's kind of where it stands today. And this is good, right? Well, for the most part, yes. The one problem is that America has this agreement with Turkey. Turkey's in NATO. Turkey and Russia don't get along. Why is that a problem for the United States? Well, it's a problem for the United States because NATO, the alliance, can force all of the countries in NATO to defend one of the member states if it gets attacked. And since Turkey and Russia are not playing nice with each other right now, by the way, all of these headlines are from the last 2 months, since they're not really playing nicely with each other, it's kind of this situation where America and Russia are actually kind of close to being dragged into a war with each other again. Now, on one hand, that's good for Turkey. Russia is less likely to mess with them if they know that America is going to potentially intervene, and of course that's why the alliances are formed in the first place. The downside to this is that this is what started World War I, right? Like we thought that these alliances might be good enough to stop a war from happening. Clearly they weren't. And so World War III, if it were to ever begin, could start the same way that World War I does, with these kind of mutual defense alliances. And America and currently 29 countries in total are still a part of NATO, and they're still kind of going against Russia. And it's a situation where it could happen again. So it's kind of the downside of NATO. But they did win, so yay us, I guess, for that. All right, guys, that's it for today. Hope you'll tune in next time when we'll talk about that Berlin situation that we were talking about last week. Hope you have a good day.